The minute you walked in the door, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined.
Stand by there, Charles. I'll tell you, nothing I'm able to do is overcoming this extremely annoying problem. There have been so many technical problems. Hello, Charles.
Great to see you, Jason.
I had hoped that new approach might solve it, but the best laid plans, Charles.
It's quite all right. I'm delighted
say.
You're back safe from wherever it was you may have been this week. And
I was in Texas.
that's good.
Just briefly visiting with a friend, and there's been a lot going on, of course. I thought I had a good method for overcoming. New surprises all the time. But anyway, so Charles, what do we have on tap for today?
Well, today, once again, and I don't know if this is visible to the crowd, but this poster of the art department is really, another magnificent
Thank you.
job here. So hats off to the art department.
I'm not that familiar with this film, but it did offer lots of opportunities for funny caricatures of some of our least favorite criminals. I know you like to go into detail on some of this, so what I've tried to do here is I blurred out most of the faces except for the people that we'll be looking at. So we've got Michelle down there in the kick line, Hillary showing off her tattoo. I didn't even notice this until this morning, but B-Rock with the all-seeing eye on his hand, and of course Bill just happy to cop a feel down there.
Exactly. Well, when we started on this, really the focus was more or less the Clinton Foundation.
Yes.
And its allied charities, but over time it's become increasingly apparent, I think, to both of us and to the crowd that, as you call him, B-Rock, has no interest in trying to be on the straight and narrow when it comes with his own foundation. So we're going to be raising the pressure here, not simply on the Trump administration, the Justice Department, the IRS, to do what's right and bring the Clinton Foundation to heel, but it's really appropriate, in my view, to revisit the whole idea of what presidential libraries and foundations should be. I mean, in the age where most records are digital, when most senior government officials, it would appear, break the law and conduct business using private and alias email accounts. So we really, look at Tom Fitton and the effort that the noble effort that he's been making at Judicial Watch to try to coax actual records out of our government. And who's opposing him? It's not Barack Obama's Justice Department, it's Donald Trump's Justice Department.
Why are they doing that?
Well, because it's damn embarrassing what was going on, I think, going way back here. I mean, the emails were in use, actually. The government had a system prior to 1994, but so it was used sparingly, but from 1994 and afterwards, emails were used a lot. And we know that the dread, diabolical Ira Magaziner, we've seen him in action. He doesn't understand the difference between the word truth and lie. There's no such thing as, in his mind, everything, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. I mean, he just says what he wants. And Ira Magaziner, after he screwed up healthcare with Hillary Clinton, for Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton made him the internet czar. So we know that Ira definitely understands how email is used and likely understands how to disguise email, and may have the kind of high-level contacts in internet land that would allow him to do tricks that ordinary mortals cannot do. So this notion of accepting whatever it is that Bill Clinton turns over to the National Archives on the way out the door, as he and his wife and Chelsea are stealing as much furniture as they can. that the notion that we should be happy with that and think that we're actually getting the presidential records, first of Bill, then of George W. He had a whole bunch of tens of thousands of missing emails as well. Barack Obama sets his foundation up and says that it's going to hold presidential records. He even, in response to, I think it's a Fitton FOIA request, Fitton was told that, oh, the presidential records are at the Obama Library. Now the Obama Library is saying, no.
But there is no Obama Library yet.
Well, there's always a transitional thing. They set up a transitional place to store the records. I think that needs to change. I think that the idea that one administration can decide with no oversight what constitutes the presidential records of it. It's a perfect opportunity for cheaters like the Clintons, cheaters like W. Bush, I think, and cheaters certainly like the Obamas, to say, no, we'll make sure before any of these supposed presidential records make it into the public domain, we're going to take out as much of the embarrassing stuff, and we're only going to have the A papers in there. All the great glowing, like Hillary's emails that we've seen so far. How many of them are, oh, Madam Secretary, you've done such a wonderful job. You're an inspiration to me. Did you notice how many of them are like that?
I didn't see those. I saw the ones where she's talking to John Podesta about Qatar and Saudi Arabia funding ISIS.
That's right. Yeah, well, that was a good one. That's somebody slipped through the cracks while Hillary and McCain were doing vodka shots. But this poster is fantastic. And again, I hope someday we'll be able to do a screensaver or something to route people through your handiwork here.
Well, Charles, perhaps for our 100th anniversary, we could launch the screensaver.
Well, that's next week.
That is next week. And people can purchase a lot of this artwork on mugs and t-shirts and various things on redbubble.com. And I do believe they're having some kind of sale today. I'll post that later for anyone who's interested, or they can certainly contact me by emailing truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org. And before we get underway with the program, I definitely want to remind people that they can be following you, Charles, on Twitter, where you are sadly shadow banned. But for those that can see the tweets, you're on there at Charles Ortel. And we did get a pretty extensive email from a crowdsourcer describing how to find your email address on the illustrious charlesortel.com. But I don't remember what the instructions were.
I think what it was is that they suggested Googling charlesortel.com with contact. And when you do that, you get, I believe, to the page that lets you do that. But
you Google charlesortel.com and contact?
Yeah.
Let's see how that looks.
But contact me.
Oh, look at that. That's, there it is. It's a little Easter egg within charlesortel.com. But if you Google charlesortel.com and contact me, you will get this magical link, which
we needn't put, don't hit the email.
Okay, sorry.
That's right.
It doesn't seem to be working anyway, so that's, we're in luck.
Yeah, that's right. That's like leaving me a voicemail.
Right, exactly. That doesn't
work.
Doesn't work either. Now, the other thing, Charles, is that people can see the previous 98 videos, and today's 99th video will be on here very soon. But this, of course, is the playlist on Crowdsource the Truth's YouTube channel, which people can find by searching for Jason Goodman on YouTube. And we've got all of the videos from Sunday with Charles, as well as Charles Ortel is closing in, all consolidated in this handy playlist where if people have 200 to 300 hours kicking around, they can watch all of this content and really learn a lot about not only the history of movies over the past 20 to 30 years, but some of the crazy things the Clintons have been up to. And I'll tell you, there's no shortage.
Yeah, it's actually very well done by you, Jason. And when you pull into an individual movie, there's a summary. There's also all the slides. Typically, the slides are there. I'll draw people's attention to the viewership list. This is the views just of the playlist, 11,342 views. Last time we were on, which I think was Wednesday, that number was slightly below 11,000, which means that in several days, we're adding like 100 views of the playlist a day.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that I think the average viewership, the average viewer stays on each one of these videos for a good length of time. Many stay all the way through. Some have watched every single video. And we tend to get, it seems, and this is in a slow period now where people are trying to get their families back to school and all that. We tend to get around 10,000 views within 24 hours for these things, which are on average slightly more than 2 hours each. Some are more than 3 hours, some are around an hour, but on balance it's about 2 and change. That's a very long time.
It's like the Godfather Part 1 of Clinton crime exposés.
Well, I'm so glad that we did it the way we're doing it, because as progress builds here towards prosecutions, indictments, prosecutions, convictions, incarcerations, people are going to want to look back and understand how this evolved, and they're probably going to want to start checking and say, well, the government's saying today in September, I'm making this up, 2018, that the Clinton Foundation is a fraud. Did anybody else have this idea a while back ago? Is the government fully prosecuting the case? Because this knucklehead who's done 99 videos so far, and it seems to call him out for this and this and this, how come you're only doing one narrow count? So I think we're going to have the ability, particularly now that people are following you and following me on Twitter and referring this around. President Trump even tweeted out, not directly about us, but he did tweet out that, how come the Department of Justice is not looking at the Clinton Foundation?
Yeah, yeah. I just had a bit of an epiphany, Charles. I think maybe for Wednesday we should do Charles Ortel's Top 100 and select the most incriminating piece of evidence from each episode and just refer to that.
We could do that. That'd be
That's
fun.
a good idea.
We could do that.
Yeah.
We could, yeah.
You're contemplating not doing that.
No, we were contemplating how we could do. The show Bonfire of the Vanities?
Yeah.
I've got an idea there.
Okay, well, we can talk about that. Now, Charles, as usual, you've prepared a comprehensive presentation for us. I do believe I've linked to it in advance, so people who are watching now can follow as we go along. It's we need like a bouncing ball, follow the bouncing ball.
Well, when I was doing board presentations decades ago, this was a technique that really helped me. And typically what we would do is we would have a slide presentation sort of like this. I mean, this is a long time ago. But backing up the slides, we would have a presentation book, which was typically 60 pages long. And then backing up that book, we might have appendices, which could be several hundred pages long.
Wow.
And just to make sure that we were sure of our views. Now I have many, I don't know if it's 10,000 pages yet, but thousands and thousands of pages written and being organized to drop on the wider world once the indictments start coming. But what we try to do in these presentations is to give you a sense of the direction we're going so that you can, get ready, fasten your seatbelt. But what we're talking about today is when we think about charities, most charities actually, the overwhelming majority of charities are well done, thoughtful, true exercises in people trying to do good things to benefit beneficiaries in the United States and around the world. I mean, most charities actually are well run. Unfortunately, the bad charities like the Clinton Foundation and frankly like the Gates Foundation, we're going to get into it, we've had a presentation on the Gates Foundation, but these charities that are really vanity exercises trying to take somebody with a questionable reputation and burnish their reputation by, making you think that they're actually doing good things, letting you focus on the few good things they assert they're doing and ignore the really bad things that they have done. These sort of charities are damaging and they need to be made examples of. They cost the U.S. and state and city governments money and foregone tax revenues and foregone corporate income tax revenues. And they sully the reputation of a vital part of this economy. And what you hear is that from some people, we can't expose the full extent of this. If we do, it'll be too damaging, to think of the embarrassment. Baloney.
Yeah.
That's exactly why all of this needs to be exposed, both at the charity level and then whoever was covering this up, obstructing the process of bringing these Clintons and Obamas and others to justice. So we're going to be talking about a fund that we, foundation and a fund that we have talked about in sort of summary terms before, and that's the Children's Investment Fund and the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. We're going to take you behind the scenes on that thing, which I think could well be another charity fraud.
Oh yeah, that was one of the very first that we spoke about.
It was the first one.
Huh.
Which is why we're circling back on it. Roughly a year later, we spoke about it on August 20th,
Wow.
2017.
Time flies. You don't look a day older than
Over 80,
August
yeah.
25th,
Well,
2017.
but here's a little morsel, and I know how much you enjoy this, but taking you into the short saga of the Ortel family. It turns out that the first Ortel, who came here not from Germany but from Prussia, left. He had been in the army, and I guess he was there for, I think, 10 years. And he decided, enough of this, I want to go to the New World. He got on a ship, which I think was called the Sophia or the Sophie.
Huh.
And it landed right around now. I want to say like August 25th or something like that. I don't have the exact date, but late August, 1853, 165 years ago, this ship, you know, made it into New York Harbor, but not before. And this is why, you know, the Clintons are probably, and the Obamas say, God damn it, why didn't that ship sink? We wouldn't have to deal with this guy. Not before the ship went aground off the coast, I think, of Connecticut. And so he nearly died.
Wow.
And obviously, had he died, we wouldn't be here today. At least I wouldn't be here
I
today.
would.
You might be here today.
I'd probably be just chilling out on the couch watching Avengers or something.
That's right. But anyway, I didn't, you know, decide to start with you Sunday with Charles on the 164th anniversary of this guy's arrival. But I bring that up just to say that many people in this country, the people who, my mother arrived in this country in 1931 when she was 6 years old, I guess. Or I might have that wrong. But roughly in that time frame. So there are recent arrivals to this country. There are people who have been in this country, families a lot longer than mine. But this is a truly great country. It's done a lot for my family. I assume it's done a lot for your family. It's done a lot for the many lucky Americans who are citizens, who are here. And this show, Sunday with Charles, is in part about doing all we can to protect this constitutional republic under a rule of law for the benefit of all who want to participate in this country.
And I mean, in part, I thought that was the whole point.
Well, actually, at this point, it's like get Shorty, get the Clintons, get the Obamas. We haven't done Get Shorty yet, by the way, I don't think. So this witch hunt, this Mueller witch hunt has gone on way too long, and we're going to be talking about some new details that have come to the fore in the last week on that. And it really is time, with great respect, Mr. President, I'm not trying to boss you around. Nobody could do that. I'm sure, you know, neither Barron nor Melania nor any of your family can boss you around. So the last thing I'm going to try to do is to do that. But I would encourage you, as Dan Bongino and others have been quoted recently saying, this is not a fair game. These people are not playing by the rules. They're doing their level best to get you at all costs.
Yeah.
You've given them more than enough time. They've shown nothing. This is not about collusion. This is about retribution. And it's past time, sir, for you to stand up, drop the big bat, and, you know, start swinging.
Some might even say it's well past time.
I could even do that.
You know, Charles, one of the things that I think is a very clear indicator is that, you know, we take the Clintons, for example. You have been focused on the same crime for a year, and you've been each week, bi-weekly, presenting more and more evidence that shows serious financial crimes, money laundering, theft, what's not redirection, what's the word?
Diversion.
Diversion. These are all the same crime. To me, it seems like every week they're like, oh, he's paying strippers. Oh, he's colluding with Russians. They're just like reaching for straws to come up with anything.
Well, and the difference though here is that the 50 attorneys general and some mayors and localities, certainly the IRS, certainly the Attorney General of the United States or U.S. attorneys, have the ability now to stop this, to at least say, to the people in Arkansas, you have to appoint a conservator for the Clinton Foundation. They may not raise nickel one forward. They've got to stop soliciting in all these states. We've got to get behind what really happened here. The donors, the many donors of up to 50 or more private foundations are guilty of having sent money to a fraudulent charity and of not trying to get that money back. That is a serious crime. Where we're in these 50 charities, and they're big ones, the Rockefellers, the Gates, really big foundations. Donald Trump and our IRS have the ability to, go to these foundations and say, look, please explain to us why you made what are called taxable expenditures to the Clinton Foundation. In the case of the Gates Foundation, from 2001 to the present, 150 different expenditures. I mean, Bill Gates has the ability to hire accountants and lawyers to explain to him why you're not supposed to do that. Yet he's done this, putting his very foundation at risk. And he's got several. He's got his main foundation, and he's got Gates Charity Partners. He's implicated Warren Buffett in this. These are people with huge net worths. If we've got a gigantic budget deficit, everybody who's against this inequality, wants to see this all become a lot more equal. You want to take these billionaires a few pegs down and pay down the debt? Land on the Gates Foundation. Land on the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. And so I can well understand why people would be loath to do that, but here in New York State, and we'll be talking about this, we have the acting Attorney General, I think her name is Barbara Underwood or something like that.
I think acting is the appropriate term. Are we sure that's actually an attorney and not just a paid performer?
Right. And she's all high and mighty about the Trump Foundation and over $2 million.
That's crazy.
And here we've got...
They went after it right away.
Right. And here it's like, oh yeah, the Clinton Foundation. Yeah, that's the one I'm not supposed to investigate because then I'll get in trouble. And so, Mr. President, it's really time for you in these coming days now and weeks, step up your game. The people who elected you, the people who want to see things shaken up in Washington, D.C., understand this fraud. They understand that it's even accelerating now. Probably Hillary Clinton are probably trying to raise money as we speak off of the death of John McCain, in their foundation. But anyway, so we're going to take you through this a path forward here, a new glimpse into a foundation and the details of its epic fraud. But before we do that, we like to, in the next slide, we like to remind everybody about the way we do these kinds of presentations, that Jason and I have done a lot of work. It may not seem like it, but we've done an enormous amount of work getting each of these presentations ready for you.
I think it seems like it.
And there's a lot of evidence. These slide presentations, we give them to you for free, and at your leisure. Those of you who are just new to this game, and if you are new to the game, thanks so much for joining the party, joining this exercise. If you've been with us for a while, you know that we in the United States of America, and Jason and I in particular, prize the First Amendment, and we have an absolute First Amendment right to exercise our views here, which we're doing from a base inside the United States of America. This is picked up all over the world, but we're expressing our views here, and we have that right. And to date, I can report that in this quest to expose the Clinton Foundation, which for me began in February of 2015, 4 months before I think Donald Trump started running for office, at no time has the Clinton Foundation ever challenged any aspect of this analysis, which should tell you something. And we do know that there's been confirmed that the IRS is, in theory, investigating this, and we know that multiple governments are investigating this, and we know the FBI has been investigating this. So, it is time to come to a resolution. Putting together the budget of the United States happens by September 30th, 2018. If you could put the budget of the United States together in less than a year, you can certainly figure out, you have enough resources in the Department of Justice and the FBI to understand, A, this is a fraud, and B, that a lot of the people, Mueller, Comey, Rosenstein, Loretta Lynch, perhaps Barack Obama, Eric Holder, Valerie Jarrett, there are many, many people have been obstructing, maybe the Bushes, obstructing the full analysis of this fraud that goes all the way back to October 23rd, 1997.
I'll tell you what, Charles, I don't know if I'm overstating this, but I feel like the comprehensive way in which you have dissected this complex fraud and presented in these, clearly laid out documents, it really seems like a law student, someone who just graduated from law school, just passed the bar and has the ability to write or type and submit things, could just take all of this as exhibits, do no additional work, and just prosecute based on everything that you've brought up.
One would hope, one would hope. And look, I understand that taking on, because I'm doing it, but I understand that taking on then a sitting president and somebody in Hillary Clinton who thought she would be a sitting president.
Sitting duck.
Or add a letter. Is a daunting task, because we know just how vindictive. We know that under Barack Obama's presidency, they talk about a scandal-free presidency.
Yeah.
Bullshit. I mean, his team, Brennan and others, were investigating members of the press aggressively. Cheryl Atkinson,
Yeah.
James Rosen,
Michael
others.
Hastings.
Michael Hastings is dead. He's still dead. And members of Congress, maybe the Supreme Court, and people in the Senate. The tools, the spy tools that are not supposed to be directed inside this country may well have been directed under the Obama presidency against American citizens and patriots, in nefarious ways. And that's, that has to be fully exposed if that did happen.
I know you love it when I bring up totally non sequitur things, but when you talk about Barack Obama's scandal-free presidency, it reminds me of the time when Donald Rumsfeld was the CEO of Searle Pharmaceuticals and they introduced aspartame to the market. It was causing brain tumors in rats to a huge extent. So what they did was they surgically removed the cancerous tumors and then submitted the test rats to the FDA for approval, and they said these are cancer-free rats. So it's the same as Obama's scandal-free presidency. You just surgically remove the scandals and don't have anybody look at them,
Right.
and it's scandal-free.
Right, that's the Clinton-Bush way.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. And it's being adopted by the Obamas, which is why we have them dancing in the conga line in the not-so-sweet charity image.
Good. So some of these are the same as the last several times, but what I like to do, and it was a good suggestion, whoever made it, that we ought to keep 8 key takeaways for each presentation. In this case, you and I have been saying for a while that Jeff Sessions and Rat Rodenstein and Ferris Mueller, these guys have to go, and it's enough here. I mean, you can't. I understand the idea that because the president may, in theory, be part of any investigation if it's happening into Russian collusion, if that's still happening, that investigation, I understand why you would tread carefully, but I think there's a countervailing set of issues. When somebody who's been given the high honor and responsibility of serving as a special counsel goes rogue, it's up to, I would argue, the president, or maybe, I don't know, the Supreme Court or somebody, to say, no, you can't do this, Robert. Nobody appointed you God, that you just go and there we go. Just go and do whatever the hell you want to do, however you want to do it, with spending untold sums of money and reporting to no one, in a strict sense.
Well, he's weaponized the office.
Yeah, enough. I mean, Robert Mueller has shown his true colors already. I think Donald Trump could blunt a lot of the criticism of interfering in this investigation by simply saying the existing investigation, which was started on false pretenses by a leak from Lion Jim Comey to Rat Rodenstein, with Sessions strangely recusing himself.
But what about McCain and the dossier
and all that? Yeah, exactly. But the whole birth of this, it was stillborn. It was not done properly. And instead of saying, I'm not going to, I would have the president say, it's not that I'm going to eliminate the investigation into collusion in the 2016 election. Yeah. I'm going to put teeth into it.
Yes.
I'm going to get a new, fresh team of people. And, Giuliani joked about getting rabid Republicans. No, get neutral people, ideally people who are independent, give them the real resources, and then don't have the investigation be simply into Russia. Have it be into any sort of conspiracy to rig any aspect, not simply of the 2015 2016 election, I go all the way back to 2000. You know, I pick it up with, go back into the ground of George W. Bush. Hillary Clinton was fond of saying on the Senate floor that George Bush was selected, not elected.
Right.
You know, take it all the way back and say, you know, we need, the American people need to be certain that when we go into the ballot box and cast our votes actually get counted. It matters not whether you're a minority, you know, a privileged person, whatever. Every American should be absolutely certain that his or her vote actually gets counted at the ballot box. Only once, exactly, only once. So, you know, now we're in a place where it seems to me that what the leaking lion Bob Mueller is doing is they're now going after Trump personally, his family members, in state courts. They're going in New York State, they're probably going to try California and other places where Donald Trump cannot exercise a presidential pardon to stop these things from happening. And, you know, I appreciate that we have this the September 4th hearing for Kavanaugh, which people are now trying to stop. Democrats are trying to stop on spurious grounds. It's going to happen. I appreciate that we need to get the Supreme Court, it needs to be a 5-4 court, in favor of law and order and the original intent of the Constitution, because that's what the people actually voted for in 2016. But, you know, it's really time for Donald Trump to step his game up here. These leaks out of the grand jury by Mueller's team, those are serious violations of the law.
Yep.
And if we can, Jason, the second point, I put it in green because Sidney Powell, who's a lady, a wonderful lady, has this great new site, Creeps on a Mission.
Oh yeah, I was looking at that earlier when you had sent it.
Yeah.
And it's a creepy mission, but they have got some pretty fun graphics. I wonder if we've inspired any of this type of fun.
No, Sydney has said she'll come on the show. She's a wonderful person, and I had her on my radio show several times. She's fearless. The last person you want to cross is Sidney Powell.
You can get a shirt with all of these creeps, so that's perfect.
She's charging $25 to $30.
That's a lot for a shirt, I think.
Well, it's a Creeps on a Mission shirt.
And it's also 100% cotton, so
ring spun.
I don't know what that means.
Sounds like it adds $10 to the price.
Exactly. It's perfect.
But you know, Sydney's great, and her book, if we just hit on that link on the right, License to Lie.
Yeah.
And she has a nice Southern accent, so it comes across a license to lie. But it's $99.53 is pretty expensive. I wonder why it's that expensive.
Oh, well, you got to pay for all those shirts.
That seems very expensive.
I agree. Why is it
and
so
a collectible
high?
for $1,300.
That's high. What's collectible? Does she sign it?
I don't know.
Well, I think that this is, you know, people can sell it for whatever they want, and then the.
I actually collect first edition books myself, and that's not a crazy price for a, you know, if it's a rare signed thing.
Seems pretty high.
Yeah.
Unless it comes with like $1,250 in cash in it. I won't be buying it.
You won't be buying it?
No, I don't think so. I get the Kindle version.
But no, Sydney's done
$9.
Sydney's done a great job. She's regularly now on Hannity and Lou Dobbs, etc. And she was on over the weekend talking about this story here in the Real Clear Politics. This is a monster story.
Oh,
that's weird.
Yeah.
Because it worked for me before.
Oh, because it's, I see, it's this. Let's try this. I'll have that going in no time. Give me just a moment.
Yeah, so Paul Sperry is a gifted investigative journalist, and he's done a lot of great work, but in a nutshell, yeah, the original story, yeah, here we go. I wonder why it didn't work the other way.
Some kind of carriage return. Sometimes when I go from Microsoft Word to PDF, strange things happen. Look who it is, Dopey James.
But so the issue here is that they found almost 700,000 emails on this Aberdeen Wiener laptop, which went all the way back to 2006. And remember, I've been saying that, you know, there's a lot of dirty emails covering the period 2006 and forward, because that's when Hillary decided to make her run for the presidency the first time. That's when they needed a lot of money. That's when the Clinton Foundation books went haywire, starting in 2006, really, 2007. They ballooned the thing up. A lot of hundreds of millions of dollars started going missing. The audits made no sense. The numbers made no sense. And there have to be a lot of incriminating emails back and forth amongst Clinton Foundation people and people like Doug Band and big donors who wanted political favors out of a Clinton as president.
Boeing, GE.
Oh, exactly. And so the shocking thing, just I'm a numbers dude, so you say Hillary Clinton claims that sum total of her emails, the 33,000 that she I think deleted and the 30,000 that she turned over was roughly 63,000. We're talking here about 700,000 emails. And the official Dopey James Comey story I
read them in a week.
Yeah, exactly. That through the magic of the FBI, we were able to go and look at. Now it turns out, according to Sperry, that out of the 700,000 emails that were on that laptop, they only may have reviewed 3,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's the overwhelming majority of emails were not looked at. Let us hope that those emails have not been destroyed. Let us hope that actually real people in the FBI have been in touch for months with the New York office and the police people who found this laptop in connection with the Wiener teenage sex scandal. Let's hope that we really go through this, because the way Sidney was talking about this on television, on the Dobbs show, I think it was that people in the New York office, people who saw this, viewed these emails as a treasure trove implicating Hillary Clinton. So if Comey, Dopey James, Crooked James Comey, had this treasure trove, had people telling him what was in it, had McCabe telling him what was in it, who knows who else knew what was in it, who knows who was trying to bleach bit it.
Right.
That is probably one of the things that Team Obama, Team Clinton, Team Bush is trying to keep covered up, and that the American people absolutely deserve to see. So, Mr. President, if it's not going to screw up the prosecution of these people, why not have the FBI dump all of these emails in the public domain? Let's take a look at them. Let the crowd look at them. You've got just however many people you have in the FBI. We've got, what, 65,000 subscribers now, Jason?
Yeah.
That's more than I think there are line FBI agents at this point.
If we could get everybody to read those emails, it
Right.
would be
Yeah.
pretty good.
And there are people who are very good, I won't say their full names, but Kevin and Bob leap to mind as people who right away get on this stuff and they get sending me and you information. Others also do the same thing. John, we'll leave last names out of it. So that's a big development, that we're finally coming to learn that there actually were more like 700,000 emails in that time frame. And that makes sense to me, that kind of a number. I mean, based on my own, I'm a prolific email user. I don't really text, but I do like email. And the notion that Hillary Clinton would only have had 30,000 relevant emails from 4 years as Secretary of State, running a gigantic department with all these people, it just made no sense to me.
Right.
700,000, that makes a bit more sense.
And all those emojis, too. That really,
right.
LOL.
Yeah, all those vodka tonic recipes. So one reality here is that if you go back into Bill's writings, Bill and Hillary Clinton have been operating criminal enterprises, masquerading as,
Nice people.
well, masquerading as departments of the state government of Arkansas, Attorney General and Governor, and then Senator, President, presidential candidate. These people have never been clean.
Yeah.
And to see that, one great book is by, I didn't have room to put both authors' names in that little line there. So it's Jeff Girth and his colleague Don Van Natta wrote this book, Her Way, which came out in 2008. And I would really commend that book to the crowd as something, if you want to get more information into the mind of Hillary Rotten Clinton and her family, this is a very well done work, and I'm surprised it only has 38 customer reviews, but it's really
only
very well done.
$3 for the hardcover.
You can get one for a quarter.
That's
It
great.
reminds me of the days when I was a kid. You can get a candy bar for a quarter.
This is the market telling us what people think of
Right.
Sidney Powell versus Hillary Clinton.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to read about that sea hag.
$3.
Yeah,
Oh, but Hillary didn't write this book. I guess
This
if
is a book
people-
about her. Yeah.
Right. If people knew that what was going on,
And
they
it's
might-
like They should do an update about this. Her Way, the hopes and ambitions of Hillary Rodham Clinton. You know, and then the sequel can be it can be called On Second Thought or No Way.
But here's the customer reviews. There's only 3 stars.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I like the book. Here's one, you know, an eye-opener.
Yeah. Well, people can read that at their leisure, Charles.
Yeah. So if we go back in there, a gating question for me is, what was the legal basis to open this investigation? Remember that what happened is Comey was fired early in May of 2017.
Yeah.
And Rat appointed Mueller, you know, several days, like 10 days later or so, in May 2017. So what specific rationale was used to open up the investigation? Who gave Mueller what alternatives were considered other than Mueller to be the special counsel? Why was he picked? What marching instructions was he given? What resources was he given? You know, it's not like Mueller should be able to charge off and do this, you know, with no oversight of any kind in such a highly politically charged matter. I mean, if the guy were going to be taken seriously, or expected to be taken seriously, he is smart enough to have realized how controversial this approach was going to end up being, and he certainly shouldn't have selected 17 angry Clinton supporters to be his exclusive prosecutorial staff.
I thought it was 13.
It's 13, 17, whatever the number is. It's more than 10. He shouldn't have done it that way, right? You can't say, you know, this is really serious. You can't. I mean, he knew enough that he knew this was going to be controversial. He should have gone out of his way to make sure that his staff was, you know,
clean.
A certain percentage Republican, a certain percentage Democrat, a certain percentage independent, ideally nonpartisan, not people who have actually worked for the crooked Hillary Clinton Foundation and the crooked Hillary Clinton campaign, and were actually, the top guy was at the celebration party, you know, when the glass ceiling stayed very much intact. There he was crying in his Prosecco or whatever he was drinking. You know, that's just craziness. And you know, steps like that, to me, undercut any defense that Mueller has at this stage. I mean, it's not like he's conducted himself with rigor. There have been leaks galore out of the special counsel to the New York Times. It's almost as if the New York Times is like working in Bob Mueller's office, and the Washington Post as well. And you're not supposed to have these type of leaks out of the grand jury. That's strictly illegal.
And you know, Charles, we're just, I think, some short days away from Larry Klayman's FOIA lawsuit bearing hopefully some fruit. Emmett Sullivan found in Larry's favor, saying that the special counsel's office is going to have to turn over their communications between the press and that office, which Larry expects, as you're pointing out, will reveal criminal leaks.
Yeah.
So we should know in a matter of really just a couple days.
In contrast, we have these Clinton charity frauds and the related public corruption going all the way back to the Arkansas days. Complete pass. You know, it's like, oh, Manafort, let's raid him at 5 o'clock in the morning. Right. What will let Hillary Clinton be interviewed, you know, by with co-conspirators not on the record, you know, in that July 4th weekend in 2016. It will give special deals to all these people, even though they haven't come forward. You know, the co-conspirators, the Cheryl Mills, the Heather Samuelsons, those type of people, Uma Abedin. On the other hand, we're just going to land on Manafort. We're going to land on his wife. We're going to, you know, throw him in solitary confinement pending a trial. You know, it's an outrageous miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
On top of which, we've been over this, that I think Comey, Mueller, and the Rat are all implicated in failures to prosecute the Clinton Foundation when it was easier to do it back in 2001 to 2005.
Why was it easier to do it then?
Because it was smaller and it was an open and shut case. They'd never had an independent audit until January 9th, 2006. They'd never had the pretense of...
Isn't it still an open and shut case?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, but the difference is it's cost a lot of time and money. You know, this thing, it would have been much better to shut it down and deal with it in 2002, when they could have easily done it, 2002 and 3, before the damn building was even built. They didn't break ground on the building until May of 2002. It was obviously a fraud on March 1st, 2002, when they entered into a long-term lease with the city of Little Rock, and, you know, never having actually gone to the pretense of doing any of the things you're supposed to do when you have a foundation, like having real articles of incorporation, real bylaws, real annual meetings, real meeting notes, real tax returns, real annual reports to the various states where you solicit, avoiding
dinosaur movie. That's real.
Yeah, real stuff. Like, you should consider not using a crooked fundraising agent, both in Bill Clinton and this firm, O'Brien, McConnell and Pearson, that was disciplined for soliciting in Pennsylvania in 2002. You should consider not lying to the state of Mississippi and every other state about the fact that you weren't registered properly, but you were soliciting nonetheless, starting in 1998. I mean, these are the kind of things you're not supposed to do, but they did do. And you could have wound this up. You wouldn't need to spend 4 years on this. When people think about in our personal lives, you agonize about, most people are careful with their money, and now we find out that, the way the government thinks about things is, oh, is this person politically connected? We better not go after them. And if they're politically connected, let's spend, on a project that should take a month, let's spend 4 years and not get it right. And then let's let them keep going. And then let's put ourselves, the people who couldn't find the obvious fraud back from 2001 to 5, let's put ourselves in charge of making sure that nobody finds out the truth about the Clinton Foundation. I mean, that just reeks to high heaven. Yeah. And I think if Donald Trump were to explain that to the people on these many trips he has planned now through November 6th, say, look, I am instituting, or the Trump administration is going to institute a new standard where people in government are subject to the same rules that people in the public are subject to and are treated the same way.
It's amazing that needs to be a new standard. I mean, that's sort of goes without saying that that's how that should be.
But the good news, I think, based on the signs I see, the different things moving forward, the deadlines we've talked about, the November 15th, 2018 hard deadline, the fact that new people are coming into the IRS and to the Justice Department, U.S. attorneys, Supreme Court, et cetera. I think that this whole process is being driven towards this November 15th, after the election deadline, where the people operating the Clinton Foundation frauds, and there are many of them. It's not simply the 10 or so Clinton charities, it's the 50+ private foundations, the bigger ones, bigger donors, and many others around the world that have some tough choices to make, because when these prosecutions come forward, when the crimes come forward, they're going to be implicated.
Yeah.
So, if they want to get out of trouble, they better start cooperating sooner rather than later. I think the pressure's building, and I think, in addition, the pressure is building in the ballot box for those who have been hiding inside the machinery, whether Republican, Democrat, or non-aligned, enabling this corruption because they benefit. They or their family, their wives, or their family members, or whatever, are benefiting from this swamp. I think we're seeing pressure building for the November 6th election to throw these bastards out, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or whatever, and to put them under prosecution. If they've engaged in public corruption or obstruction of justice, they need to go to prison.
I thought you were going to say put them under the jail.
So if we go to the next slide quickly, we won't do all these links because there are a lot of them. But, and I'll just posit, the American economy is booming. The first sign, it's 4.1% growth in the economy. The Atlanta Fed is now saying that it might be 4.6%, is what they're saying. That is a gigantic move. It doesn't sound like much, 4.1, 4.6 versus 2. But on an economy that's $20 trillion in size, that is a massive improvement and a massive change. And no, it's not because of Barack Obama and his policies finally taking shape. It's the opposite. It's because it took Donald Trump a good year to get in and rip the atrocious regulations and bad economic decisions and bureaucracies that had been imposed by fiat, not so much by legislation, but by his executive orders, Obama's executive orders, to get the tax bill changed, to get things changed that Democrats obstructed. That took, a year and change, and now to see the benefits, there's a lag. So you're starting to see the benefits. They're really kicking in. Meanwhile, here we have this ridiculous Yahoo. I mean, I used to like Yahoo, but I think it's appropriately named. A bunch of Yahoos are saying, that they have this story. Maybe we'll hit this one, Jason, the second one. There are people turning against the president. His allies are turning against him. Yeah, a growing list of allies turn against him. This from the AP. Rubbish. It's total rubbish. You know, that's just not true.
What just happened?
I think yeah. So you're seeing there were a bunch of stories. I couldn't avoid watching a few minutes of the Sunday talk shows this morning. And the narrative in the corporate-owned legacy media was that Donald Trump's really in trouble now. He's very close to impeachment. The days are miserable. All his friends are turning against him. Mueller's a saint. I mean, it's like these people are still, I don't know whether it's simply marijuana or they're onto cocaine or it's gin martinis and vodka martinis. They are just
maybe
all
more hallucinogenic.
Yeah, they're all on the same drugs, drinking the same cocktails, not looking at the important fact that the economy, the conditions in the economy with more jobs, unfilled jobs now than job seekers, a low unemployment rate, rising wages, increasing economy, new plants, businesses returning here. This is all very good news, and Americans vote primarily with their pocketbook. Bill Clinton escaped the kind of justice that he deserved in the 98 to 99 timeframe because the economy appeared to be booming. In hindsight, it sure looks as if it was inflated in a gigantic bubble that popped in 2001. But Bill Clinton, in that period, he got away with things he shouldn't have gotten away with because the economy wasn't doing as well as it now is doing. So to say that Trump's had a bad week, I don't think so. I think certain people around Trump had a bad week. I think Mueller and the Rat and Comey had a bad week, as they're going to find very, very soon.
Why did they have a bad week?
Because the American public, the poll came out that idiot Todd, what does he call him? What does Trump call Chuck Todd? Is it dopey Chuck Todd or
that sounds
tired?
More like you.
It's something like tired Chuck Todd or something. Anyway, he got up there and he was saying, teasing the fact that well we're going to get to the bottom of this, and the things that really matter are the polls, and we've got 2 separate polls that we've done, and we're going to tell you after the break what the polls tell you about whether Donald Trump's in serious trouble. And he promotes that, teases it, whatever, and the polls show what? No statistical change whatsoever after the bad week, except that in terms of Donald Trump's favorability rating among his base jumped to 90%.
Wow.
After these decisions. So, I think things are moving against the legacy press in ways. If you thought 2016 was bad, and if you thought that the American public could possibly think any lower of the mainstream media, just wait until after November 6, 2018. Because unless something happens to President Trump's health, which obviously no one should want to see that happen, or unless something dire happens on the anniversary of September 11th or abroad or in the markets, Donald Trump and the people who support him, I think, are poised to do much better in this election, when typically the party that won in the presidential year does suffer some reversals. So, I mean, it's not that it would be unusual for Donald Trump's team, saw the majority in the House decline. I think what you're going to see, and putting my crystal ball on, which is not necessarily great, I think you're going to see the House holding on to the House and surprise in the Senate to the upside. I think we're going to see quite a few Senate races that people thought were surefire Democrat races not turning out that way.
Charles, we've got people on YouTube telling us that it's sleepy Chuck Todd.
Thank you. See, this is the utility of YouTube.
Yeah.
Sleepy Chuck Todd.
That's
exactly.
Right.
He puts everybody to sleep. Now, this is, we talked about Trump stepping up his game, and this got picked up by Zero Hedge, and he mentions in this, the Clinton Foundation, I think, is something that should be investigated. This has 5.2 thousand shares. That's a lot of attention.
Well, plus the tweet itself has been retweeted many times.
It's down here. 47,000.
That's pretty
85. So I think this is good, Mr. President. I think you need to step it up even more. I mean, mind you, this is normally presidents take much of August off. If you go back in history, Obama was always at Martha's Vineyard or Hawaii or whatever, wherever he went in August, for much of 10, 20 days in August.
George W. took his entire presidency off.
Right, well, yeah. Probably is a good thing.
No.
Yeah, here we have it. This is Trump's mentions. Only 3,077 of the 694,000 emails were reviewed. It's absurd.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know, I would want, if this is something, you know, you don't as president want to micromanage everything, but I mean, on this one, I would want to know whose name is all over this decision. You know, when did these 694,000 emails, are we sure it's only 694,000? When did we
could
first...
be Mr. McCabe, could be the name that's on.
Right. Well, but you know, who knew about this? Why? Who sat on it? Why have we still only looked at 3,000 out of, that's like less than, it's like 0.5%. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, pretty bad. Well, I mean, look, obviously they were in the midst of covering the thing up. I mean, like I said earlier, I feel like everything they do is just further indication of desperation. It's not like they're giving us more information about the original. I tell you, I would say that Trump is in trouble if they would, in fact, present some evidence that substantiated the original accusations rather than coming up with something new every week.
Right. Now this Twitter thing is interesting. It's a long 43 point thing, 42 point, about 43. Yeah. We don't need to scroll through it, but basically the White House. It seems that the White House was bugged.
Wow.
The Trump White House was bugged. Now, who did that? You know, how many people were in on that? And that's just outrageous to think that you would have any authority to bug the incoming president of the United States. I'm going to guess that what they tried to do is they tried to weave a tale together. Barack Obama and who was his national security advisor, Susan Rice, you know, and others got together and they said, okay, we'll set up this pretext that we suspect Trump of being a Russian spy,
right,
and we'll use that as the basis to spy on his White House and leak. And I mean, that just to do that, that's trumped up charges, as it were. I mean, to do that is so outrageous. If that actually did happen, all the people involved need to be investigated. If crimes were committed, prosecuted, and that includes the former president of the United States, in my mind. If he was in on this, outrageous behavior.
Absolutely. They love pretexts, Charles. They like to come up with crazy, wacky stuff and then use that to do other stuff because it's almost like money laundering, right? It's like the more crazy stuff you have that leads away from the original thing, it's like, how did this get started?
Exactly.
But I'm showing your favorite picture of B-Rock right now.
B-Rock, there he is.
Drinking a shake of some kind.
So Roger Stone, we don't need to pull this one up, but Roger Stone is claiming that that Mueller is about to indict Donald Trump Jr. That wouldn't surprise me. And then in the unrelated to the corruption stuff, we'll talk about this at the very end, but this Catholic Church scandal and the Pennsylvania report that was scathing and then was criticized by members of the Catholic Church is now, I think, going to nuclear level because powerful people inside the Catholic Church are claiming that I think this very unpopular Pope from when he was in Argentina covered up a similar abuse scandal there. And so you have different pieces of the Catholic Church accusing different powerful pieces. I think a nuncio is a pretty senior person. This threatens to really explode as a global scandal of profound importance that could even go so far as to cripple the economic power of the Catholic Church. I mean, you're talking about large numbers of victims who've been grievously harmed, who deserve financial settlements. You're talking about, in certain dioceses, it strikes me that these are not, they're like the Clinton Foundation. It's not a church, it's a criminal enterprise.
Well, that's just it. I think a lot of people have kind of maybe wrongly thought like, oh, priests are doing this or that. I think it's more a matter of pedophiles are like, hey, wait a minute, I could become a priest and then everyone would trust me.
Yeah, I mean, this is really disgusting stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's time for this religion, which, going way back into time, in my case, people were Catholic way, way back. And then probably further back than that, they're probably pagan, but certainly pagan. But, the Catholic Church has done good things and bad things. And now it's in a very bad place. And let's see how the Catholic Church behaves here, because this is not a time for them to be lecturing Trump and lecturing the rest of the world on how to behave. But they need to get their own house very much in order.
They make paying a porn star 130 grand look good.
Yeah. And so we don't need to hit the link, but it certainly seems as if both with regard to the Chinese trade talks and the North Korean deal, those seem to be going sideways. I think China is using North Korea against us. I think when it seemed like everything was hunky-dory between Xi and Trump, the Chinese were quite happy to push North Korea along. Now the North Koreans are blasting us. It looks pretty bleak at this moment.
Yeah.
But relations with North Korea have been bleak for decades. So there was a glimmer of opportunity. Maybe these talks get back on track, maybe they don't. But I think the sanctions remain in place. And I'm very certain that America will win any trade war with China. So if it were easy, it would have been settled a long time ago.
Right.
And I give kudos to the Trump administration for trying to do something. It's at least good that they're trying to tackle these tough issues, unlike the Obama administration, unlike the Bush and Clinton administrations.
They just rely on drinking milkshakes.
Exactly.
And do nothing.
Again, we don't need to pull up this Ebola situation, but the reports out of Congo are very disturbing. The number of Ebola cases seem to be proliferating, and unfortunately down in that part of Africa, people move on these complex trade routes, and so you could easily see something like this getting past a trade border, a national border, outside of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We have somebody writing in the Atlantic that the humanities are in crisis. Okay, the humanities aren't in crisis. Academia is in crisis. Academia has served my generation very poorly, and I think it is well past time for academia to be, for those in these expensive elite universities that have gigantic endowments and seem to pay their professors a lot and find ways for professors and administrators to make a lot of money. I think it's time to go back through and consider, do these universities, which really are minting money in their professional schools, do they deserve tax exemption on the vast profit, in quotes, profit?
Yeah.
Do they deserve to accumulate returns on their endowment without paying tax? Do they deserve to escape property taxes? I mean, here in New York City, one of the reasons that properties are so expensive is that
NYU owns so much property it doesn't pay tax.
And what NYU doesn't own, Columbia owns.
Or the Catholic Church.
Or the Catholic Church or other churches, et cetera. So I think it's past time here to say, like, if you're a real charity, truly stepping into the shoes of government and relieving the government of burdens it would otherwise have to bear, yeah, you deserve a tax exemption. But if what you're doing is creating opportunities for professors to have lifetime unchallenged jobs as tenured professors, where they mint money in their salary and they have free housing, big pension, big retirement benefits, big health care, and then the ability to make money off books and sometimes,
How could NYU particularly be a 501c3?
It is.
They're just making so much money. They did just announce that medical school is tuition free at NYU, which I found quite crazy given how greedy they are. But I wonder how much overall real estate in New York City is held by just those three entities: New York University, Columbia University, and the Catholic Church. I bet you it's a substantial percentage.
I think I read somewhere that a third of all the property in Manhattan, I don't know about wider New York City, but Manhattan is owned by not-for-profit entities, one way or another. I could be wrong on that, but so this thing, Hillary, I don't even want to give her the airtime, but if people want to watch her, she called in to Sleepy Chuck Todd to talk about her vodka shot friendship with John McCain. And people will say, oh, isn't that nice? The former president of the United States candidate, two former presidential candidates in different parties could actually cooperate. Isn't bipartisanship good? No, it's not good. Not this. This is bipartisan collusion and conspiracy to engage in corrupt globalist cronyism. That's what that's all about. They both have crooked foundations. The McCain Institute, the Clinton Foundation is even worse. This isn't funny at all. But the last one is funny. We can hit this Free Republic link.
Hillary and McCain.
If people have not seen Free Republic before, or this, we don't have, yeah. Hitler discovers his plan to set Trump up as failed. This is this famous excerpt from Hitler Finds Out. It's pretty good. It's 2 minutes long, so we won't keep it up now. But
this is a funny series, though, where people take this famous movie and just overdub the titles and whatever it is that's happening. You know, Hitler freaks out. Yeah.
Anyway, so with no further ado, what we're going to talk now a little bit about is this Children's Investment Fund Foundation. Right. Okay. Now, again, we won't hit all these links, but people who want to do, people who want to get caught up on this can hit these links. In a nutshell, Chris Hone and Jamie Cooper were just students who met. Chris Hone was a top student out of England, came from a modest background, met Jamie Cooper, his wife, at Harvard, and Chris went on to work for this famous hedge fund guy who's hung up his spurs, Richard Perry, and made a lot of money with Richard Perry in a short period of time. They were very successful, and they came up with this idea of the Children's Investment Fund and the Children's Investment Fund Foundation in 2002-2003 timeframe. But the story is they built their fortune up, everything was fine, and then they had this epic divorce where Jamie Cooper walked away with $500 million.
It's pretty good.
And the husband kept billions. And you know, this split is this. You know, they're major league celebrities. Chris Hone is now Sir Christopher Hone. We first exposed this to you on the 20th of August, 2017. There's the link to the show. Let's see it there.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, and so we only did hour and 40.
Is that the duration? We were sitting closer together in those days.
That's
well.
right.
It's like this vast expanse with the TV.
Well, we need the screen. Yeah. We weren't doing the screen as much then.
Oh, that's right.
So this Children's Investment Fund specializes. It's actually, on paper, it sounds great. They advertise themselves as, you know, we're smarter than the average fund manager. We get more into detail.
What are they supposed to do for children exactly?
Yeah, it's a fund that decided nobly, in their view, that they would give a portion of their profits to the charity they controlled that would serve the interests of poor children around the world. So,
if serving the interest was trafficking, remember?
I hope
I don't mean to say that.
I don't think they're doing that, but I think this is one. It's not a case where you'd say, you know, I'm Bill and Hillary and Chelsea Clinton, Pottyhead Clinton, and we're so sloppy in everything we do, nothing's ever right. You know, we build a fortune doing nothing ever right. You know, and then you look at their thing and nothing's ever right. These are people who, in one of the toughest worlds out there, you know, I had some experience in it, the people who are out in the investment field are lethally motivated. I mean, the competition is cutthroat. They care about they don't care just about pennies. They care about fractions of pennies. And when somebody advertises to these institutional big investors, sovereign wealth funds, you know, give me your money because we're more careful than the average bear, and also give me your money because a portion of the returns that I make for you, I'm going to make sure go to very carefully managed charities. That's a very appealing thing, and a whole bunch of suckers fell for that story.
Because it's like a whole strategy for how to manage your tax situation, and if the fund does better, they can give more to charities, so you get write-offs and stuff.
Right, and we're going to explain what
they... It sounds crooked from the word go.
Well, what we're going to explain to you in a few minutes why it's, I think, very suspicious. So this fund very quickly got involved in high-profile takeover battles all over Europe and the world. It stumbled going into Japan in a prominent way. They now have a 4% stake in Fox.
Well,
okay, they're one of the largest outside investors in...
For the children's thing? Why? I guess it's just an investment.
Well, there's the fund over here that's like a straight-up fund.
Right.
But instead of charging the standard freight that such a fund would charge, which used to be 2% per year plus 20% of the profit, they charge 1.5%, and they give a fraction of the management fee to charity, and then they charge they also give an incentive fee, a portion of their incentive fee to charity. When you do all the math and you look at it, the high-level approach, I think this was a very clever marketing tool. When you set up a fund, such as the Children's Investment Fund, you have to have a 5-year audited track record to get a real audit, which means you have to have been in existence, you have to demonstrate that your strategy works, that the thing actually, that you could do it well outside the Richard Perry fund structure. Richard Perry had decades of experience, and he had people working. And it's one thing to go and work for somebody else with all the benefits that somebody else has in terms of overhead and continuity and reputation, whatever. The best ideas in the world, you go off on your own, and I've done this a few times, so I know just how difficult it is, and you've done it too, I think. When you set up your own thing, you quickly realize that all those things that you didn't really value that much that your boss was saying he did for you are quite valuable.
Oh, yeah.
Like not having to worry about how to get the office set up, and not having to worry about people who are bitching about this problem and that problem and this. There's a lot that you have to go through.
It was just like the workers' comp and the insurance and all of those sort of just the basic logistical things of running anything. This sounds more like the Tyler Perry approach to a fund than one in a fat suit.
Right. But and the big investors know that. The institutional investors who hold most of the money around the world, they know it's a constant stream of people working at places like Richard Perry. Bright young people come out and say, I want to do this on my own. And Anthony Scaramucci, for example, made a big business of trying to back people coming out of established funds going out on their own. And there's certain guidelines, and one of them is that you might want to let that team operating on its own try their strategy with a small amount of money, 5, 10, 50 million, before that team argues that they ought to have 100 billion or 10 billion or some big number. So by this ruse of saying, we're different, we're going to give a big slug of our money to charity, suddenly a large number of institutional investors let down their guard, gave this Children's Investment Fund more money than it should have had. Christopher Hohn is a very astute investor. At least his returns in the early period were phenomenal. So he very quickly garnered a lot of money. But the one thing he did not explain properly, in my opinion, he didn't explain that the money that was donated to his children's charity would in turn be concentrated and reinvested back in his fund. You see, so one thing...
Wait, so the charity is investing in the fund?
Right, so this, step one, you've got...
I thought charities aren't allowed to invest in stuff.
Yeah, they can. So you start out this way and you say, all right, I don't have a fund and I don't have a foundation. Okay, that's where I'm starting. I'm working for somebody else. I got a wife, no fund, no foundation. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a foundation. That's something they did do first. Okay, he didn't have it. It was called actually the Cooper Hohn Family Foundation, or the Cooper Hohn Foundation. And then he came up with this idea: I'm going to have an investment fund that's going to invest for the benefit of children. So he called that Children's Investment Fund. Then he changed the name of Cooper Hohn Foundation to the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. So the idea is, get money into my fund, make a good return for my investors. Out of those returns, put some of the profit into my foundation. And that's where they stop the tale. They don't fully explain that actually the money that's in the foundation will not actually go to charity. A large percentage of it will simply be reinvested back in the fund, making, the reinvested money that goes back into the fund, he's earning a profit on that. So they derived, I would argue, the Children's Investment Fund is 100% enormous. It is 100%, you're not supposed to operate a foundation for the benefit of a trustee.
Right.
I mean, this is the same family, same trustees, etc. As I say, in the UK, the Children's Investment Fund Foundation originally was called Cooper Hohn. It was founded in February 2002. The US, there is actually, this is confusing, it confused me in the beginning, there's actually another legal entity called the Children's Investment Fund Foundation, which is a separate US charity established in July of 2002.
Now wait a minute, what's the difference with the name there?
It's the same name.
Huh.
But they're separate legal entities. And when you apply for federal tax exemption as a charity, as a U.S. charity, you're supposed to explain all your related party transactions, which I haven't seen the application, and I doubt they did that properly.
And so it's controlled by the same guy in the UK.
In essence.
I think also just the very fact that they associate it with children is kind of tugging on the heartstrings of potential, that seems a little crooked.
And then, why has this fund, when you look through some of the stuff they've been doing, why has the fund been so active in the bubblicious New York City real estate market? It's been
children need apartments too, Charles.
Yes. So if we go to the next page, this is a record of the U.S. charity. And it's very interesting to me. I put here the states. It supposedly started in Connecticut and then moved to New York. But when I look for, and it could just be, there's something wrong with the database, but when I look for Children's Investment Fund Foundation, did it register as a corporation in New York State? I don't find any sign that it actually registered as a corporation in New York State. And then it switches back to Connecticut. You see the total revenues are here by year. And then you see in 2009, this is a brain fart. I mean, to lose $60 million.
Wow.
Why did they lose $60 million? They lost $60 million because they had concentrated all of the assets of the foundation, this this U.S. foundation, into the investment fund that had a bad year in 2009. Right?
That's crazy.
And one thing, there are pluses and minuses. People would say that when a foundation invests money in something, it should be diversified, which means you shouldn't concentrate the assets of a foundation in one investment form of any type, let alone one that you control, without disclosing that. I mean, that to me, that in the early years when the fund was doing really well and generating these outsized profits, because the counter response would be, no, of course I did this. It was prudent because I knew I was going to be really successful. Well, that doesn't pass muster when you start trying to think, is this fund truly independent? Is this foundation truly independent from its promoters? It just makes the argument to me that there's no independent foundation here. This is just the Cooper-Hone family maximizing their ability to control assets and build up a gigantic investment fund, which made Mr. Cooper-Hone a billionaire, and Mrs. Cooper-Hone, ex-Mrs. Cooper-Hone, she's only worth half a bill, but she's okay.
It's still pretty good.
It's all right. Then you look at this, if you look at this, is the total declared revenues, but they only put a pittance compared to their revenues each year into charity, right? 16%, 7%, 13%, 8%,
Could this missing 60, could this be stolen?
No, that's just they lost money. They put it in a fund, and the fund lost money. So I don't think there's stolen money here. But now, note here that they put just relatively small money compared to the total amount which has been accumulating tax-free. Okay? This difference, this change in net assets, stays in the foundation. You don't pay corporate income tax on it. And all these earnings just grow and grow and grow. Maybe they'll eventually go to charity. But let's take a look at the early years of this foundation, and did this bunch of really smart people somehow manage to find the worst effing charities in the world to put their money into year after year? Let's go through that a little bit. Go to the next page. Yeah. All right. At the top we have the same, 57 million went into charity, okay? There are three that I picked to study a little bit. One is called the Academy for Educational Development. Hit this right here, this LA Times story. Okay? 10 million out of 57 million went into this Academy for Educational Development. And this, under the Obama administration, they banned the United States, which had given a lot of money to this academy, 640 million. There was such serious corporate misconduct that Obama's administration banned the US government from contributing to the same thing, Academy for Educational Development, which these geniuses, who are supposed to be really good at numbers and really good at checking things out, if we go back into the slide, these geniuses sent 10 million to the Academy, 10.3 million, including 931,000 after the Obama administration said, no, we're not doing this. It's too crooked for us. Okay?
So who sent that 930?
This Children's Investment Fund Foundation.
Huh.
I don't know what's happening here, Jason.
No, nothing.
Okay. So the Children's Investment Fund Foundation wasn't giving very much of its revenues away, right? But they chose to give a big slug of it to the Academy, which is a really crooked organization. And what was the biggest recipient of aid was a legal entity that didn't exist. The Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative, Inc., starting here in 2006, 1 million, 4.7, etc., adding up $12.6 million,
Wow.
went to this thing at the wrong address with the wrong name of something that wasn't a legal entity.
Well, frankly, just at this point, just giving $12 million to the Clinton Foundation makes anyone suspect.
But wait, there's more. Okay, in a second I'll show you more. In addition to that, and I have already reported this to Harvard. I haven't yet reported it to the Attorney General of Massachusetts and the IRS.
What did Harvard say?
They're putting their best man on it. They're looking at it. But here in 2011, these geniuses, the the Children's Investment Fund Foundation in the U.S. sent $29,000 up to Harvard at the correct address, where Harvard does actually have an office to collect money. But beginning in 12, and then in 14, 15, and 16, they sent money to Harvard University at 225 Water Street. Now, you visited 225 Water Street. I mean, Harvard is pretty
Yeah, it looks like a
flush.
dentist office.
Yeah, Harvard's pretty flush with cash and excess money. They're not going to be taking an office out at 225 Water Street. And I'm very certain that there is no office of Harvard University at 225 Water Street. Yet, the Children's Investment Foundation, under penalties of perjury on their tax forms, claims that they sent $2 million, roughly, to the Harvard University at a fake address. That's a serious crime.
Yeah.
On many levels. Doing it serious, declaring it serious, and so out of 57 million in total disclosed donations from 2003 to 2016, 25 million are suspicious. 44% are suspicious. And these people are supposed to be cautious with their money?
Where was it in Massachusetts? Was it
225 Water Street, Quincy, Mass.
Quincy? Yeah, it was, I believe we definitely checked with Harvard and they said that they didn't have an office there. And I also visited with Trish one time and it literally was in like a residential neighborhood. Trish had done some sort of non-matriculated program at Harvard and was pretty familiar with the grounds and everything, and this was just absolutely nowhere at all near any offices that Harvard. People could see it right here. I mean, it literally looks like a dental office.
Right.
And
that's the headquarters of Chai.
I know.
And the headquarters of Ira Magaziner's crooked consulting business.
And there's a barbecue grill right over here. It's like a residential neighborhood.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like the place you'd send millions of dollars to.
Right. So this is just the U.S. portion. And as I said, wait, there's more. If we go to the next slide, let's look at the UK portion.
There is more.
And here, same deal. I only took it through the period. This is in pounds, not dollars. So it's even more money, right? This is $1.1 billion in revenue.
Whoa.
From 2002 to 2009 went into the UK Children's Investment Fund Foundation. But they only put 6% of their revenue into contributions. In other words, this just became a holding pen that all this $1 billion, most of it got reinvested in the Children's Investment Fund under the management for future management fees of Cooper Hone and his team. Out of the paltry amount, the 70 million that was donated, or 51 through 2008, 20 million of it, pounds now, that's like $40 million, went again to this Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative.
So can I speculate about something without knowing anything about what you're talking about?
It's your house.
Is it just a matter of like this guy's making billions and he wants to not pay taxes, so he gives money to the Clintons and they make sure there's no IRS investigation?
Could be exactly that. And you know, this to me, this just screams out. Everyone's talking, Bernie Sanders and all the people on the left are talking about the hedge fund millionaires and billionaires. I mean, these are
they're all going to these New York parties, hang out, and Bill's like, hey, let's go to the strip club and talk about a deal. Right. And it's like, if you send a couple million to us, you can launder billions or not pay taxes on billions.
That could well be. And you know, inside the UK, this Christopher Hone is such a big guy at this point. You know, he's been knighted, he's hanging around with the glitterati, and you know, now he's single again, and who knows what he's really up to. But I mean, to me, this record is not. If you told me that somebody was sloppy, right? You know, I can imagine the Clinton books looking like this because they'd look worse than this. But you know, a guy who's become a billionaire, being careful with money, careful with reporting, forced to write monthly reports because most investment funds have rigorous reporting requirements to their investors, to regulators, etc. This guy knows how to write reports. This is a horrible report, and you look at this. This is $40 million went from one party, plus the other amount. The other was at $12 million from there. So $52 million goes to this Clinton Foundation, and here, if you go into this, if we hit this link, which we've done before, what we see is that in this early period, if you hit in the EIN 27 then 1414 646 should come up, Clinton Health Access Initiative. Yeah, and hit that, this one, yep. If you hit that, it's coming up, slow I guess. All right, and go down a little bit. Go further down.
Now I think we checked this address also, didn't we?
Yeah, that's not a particularly nice address either, but that was, if we go down a little bit further, see this IRS tax exempt application. This is purposely hidden. It's not on the Clinton Foundation website. And it's not on there for a reason. If you go down a little bit further, this was filled out December 31st. A little bit further, your history, I think, is your history. Are you a successor to another organization? Answer, yes. If you've taken it, we'll take it. What do they answer? No. Of course this was a successor organization, okay? This thing is hidden on the Clinton Foundation. It's omitted from the Clinton Foundation website. It is only one of the illegal reorganizations that happened starting in 2009 under the Obama presidency, when Lois Lerner was still in charge of the tax-exempt department and when they were persecuting Tea Party organizations. They let this thing slide through. This is an obvious fraud, okay? I don't think that Cooper Holmes would say that the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative didn't exist. That's why they gave them $52 million. You know, I think they would say, no, of course it existed. They'd have to say that in their books. We sent them all this money. So this is a flat-out lie that a lot of people in the Clinton Foundation had to know about, the Clintons had to know about, the Obama team had to know about it. This reorganization of this Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS thing, and then of Alliance for a Healthier Generation, Clinton Global Initiative, there have got to be emails flying around. You know, people say, what the hell are these Clintons doing? There have got to be people in the Obama team saying, I never knew it was this bad. How are we ever going to fix it? No, I'm sure there's going to be people, private conversations and private emails. People who find out about this are going to say, Jesus Christ, these Clintons are crazy what they've done here. You know, and there'll be people imploring the Obama team to get the Clintons, and the Obama team saying, no, we can't do that. We like to live. So if we go back into the slides, we can go to the next page.
Where's the outrage,
Yeah.
Charles?
So we got to get out of Mueller. We've got to get a detailed report on his findings. I mean, he is, you know, this guy has been busy since May of 2017. What the hell is he doing? Where's the report? Ken Starr gave a report, you know, referred whatever he'd found to the House.
He also did nothing, though, didn't he?
Well, he did a lot of work, but he didn't take it as far as it could have gone, I don't think. So, but nonetheless, where's the report? It should come out any day. We've got Bruce Orr testifying on the 28th, I believe, which is Tuesday. But Donald Trump, you know, here's an article, the second link here, explaining that Donald Trump is still saying he's powerless over his own Department of Justice. And that makes a fair point. You know?
Still pretends, this says.
Yeah, he's not powerless. He needs to stand up and, you know, Mueller he's had enough time. Lay down your report, okay? Come clean on what your marching orders were. You know, have you exceeded your authority? Who gave you excess authority? When did this happen? Did Rosenstein have the right to expand unilaterally Mueller's probe? I suspect not. So if we go back into the slide, yeah. So Bannon's got his new movie coming out, I guess on the second anniversary of Hillary's comment about the deplorables. That's why it's coming out on the 9th. Trump at War. We won't watch it here. It was 2 minutes and 36 seconds, but
So did Bannon, you think, leave to go off and do stuff like this, or?
That's a guess. I mean, I don't know. But he's certainly been busy.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is one movie I certainly will watch.
Well, you're a big movie fan, I think, aren't you, Charles?
Sort of.
Classic movies.
Yeah. So here we have, this is pretty funny here. This is, I don't understand how in Maryland they could have a weaker candidate than this guy from the NAACP, Ben Jealous, who apparently liked an anti-police tweet mocking Blue Lives Matter.
Whoa.
Now, Maryland is a funny state. There are a lot of federal government workers in the state. There are a lot of people dependent on government in Maryland, and maybe it'll always be a blue state. But this guy seems to be such a weak candidate, and I wonder whether he makes it across the line.
It's a stupid name. I don't think he's going anywhere with that name.
Ben Jealous?
Yeah. It's just,
He looks a bit like that actor. What's the actor? Vince Vaughn.
oh, you're right.
Anyway, then we have this miniature mind, Robert Reich, who, you can't really, this guy has a record in academia that is highly questionable.
Robert Reich?
Robert Reich, exactly.
He became like an internet pundit where people were like, oh, this guy seems official and he's got a cool style of making videos that illustrate themselves or whatever.
Well, he's I think on the faculty at Cal Berkeley. I mean, he's, I don't know whether he's a professor or what he is now. But I mean, this guy is now arguing that impeachment is not bad enough for Trump. In fact, what should happen is that Donald Trump's presidency, in Reich's mind, should be annulled. Now,
can you do that?
No. At Harvard, they have if you get in big trouble at Harvard, they expunge you from the record. In other words, even though you may have gone there and gotten your degree and maybe taught there for 20 years, they take all record of you out of the Harvard thing, and maybe that's what he's thinking about. But this guy, Robert Reich, he was a Rhodes Scholar with Bill Clinton. But I mean, come on, dude. Come on.
His parents should perhaps retroactively abort the pregnancy.
I mean, it's just really, it just gives you a sense. Robert Reich is in the academic intelligentsia. I mean, he's a member of the elite.
He's the Fourth Reich.
Horrible. Turning to non-Clinton matters, just to close it out a little bit, we have some action steps for the crowd in the final slide. But China is really, I think, we've talked about their investment situation, that China's investment bubble is monumental, particularly from about 2007 forward. They have been aggressively expanding militarily in the Spratly Islands and elsewhere, in the Caribbean and Africa. Now they're putting new ships into the Navy. And, I think rather than caterwauling about Russia and the threat posed by Russia,
should be more worried about China.
We should be a lot more worried about China because, there are, first of all, there are many more people in China than there are in Russia. Their economy is much bigger. And there are many more, the Chinese are far more active inside the United States than the Russians are. The Chinese are funding various think tanks. There are many Chinese people here.
Buying every movie studio.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, I think we need to wake up a little bit here and begin to understand better who our true friends are, who is pushing the envelope. Russia's making aggressive moves that are concerning. We're making aggressive moves, but China also seems to be wedded to an aggressive expansion of its military sector, in part using stolen technology that has been, gotten out of our defense sector and in other ways, out of academia in other ways. And it's high time that we, stand up and, be tough on China, frankly. and be tough on the appeasement wing of the establishment party, who's very happy to collect crumbs as China merrily goes around, taking advantage of us.
How do you think the food is in the Chinese Navy, Charles? It's probably not good.
Probably rat-free.
General Tso's naval chicken.
But our great friend Michael Smith, let's pull this story up. He is relentlessly going after corruption. There's been a change in government, in at least the leadership of the party in charge, I think, or the prime minister in Australia has been replaced. And
how's Downer doing?
Downer's independently wealthy, so he's probably fine. But what Smith is all on here is he's aggressively putting a case against the former leadership in Australia, portions of the former leadership, for corruption. And so that's why we haven't heard from him for a while. He's very busy interviewing these people in safe locations. And I'm hopeful that we'll get some positive news out of Michael Smith's work shortly. So hats off to you, mate.
MichaelSmithNews.com.
Right. And then if we, this story on Zero Hedge, I don't know how closely people follow what's going on in Yemen, but the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince, MBS they call him, has, with U.S. help, been aggressively going after elements within the bordering state of Yemen. And as happens in any war, there are dread results, and here's another example of children being killed in Yemen as a part of these strikes. I don't think the average American, or even the concerned American, is following the degree to which Saudi Arabia and we are waging war in Yemen. It's not like we have a great success record. You look back over the history here in Afghanistan, and that didn't work out. Iraq, not so well. Syria, Libya. Do we really want to be opening up another front in Yemen? And if so, why?
Yeah, what's Saudi's beef with Yemen?
Well, I think what it is that the Iranian government has, inside Yemen, there are elements of the Yemenis who are friendly with the Iranians. And there are gas fields, underwater gas fields and other things that do go into Yemen. There are economic reasons. And so the Saudis have they loathe the Iranians, and this is a proxy war happening in Yemen. And I think it would behoove the administration to be up front, I think, now. And if the reason to do this is that Iran is even more diabolical than we know from what they're doing outside of Yemen, then that would advance the cause of being tough on Iran. I don't think we should be waging a war in Yemen secretly.
Yeah.
No more secret wars at this point.
I agree with that. Excellent point.
So if we go, it turns out, we were joking about this a little bit, we haven't mentioned McCain. I was trained never to speak ill of the dead, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But here's Fox News noticing that McCain and Ted Kennedy died on the same date, 9 years apart, from the same cancer, which is interesting. It could just be a coincidence.
Is there a 3 related to this? Age 70 to 13 months after his diagnosis, 9 years, I don't know. Some people, Kennedy died at 77. I didn't realize he was that young. So the Ted Kennedy driving school never got a chance to get off the ground.
Yeah, and since the time I originally wrote this, the beginning of this and the time I finished it, this controversy in the Catholic Church is really escalating now. That people are directly accusing the Pope himself of covering up with others the extent of this sex abuse conspiracy. And that being the case, there have been a lot, I use this word advisedly, there have been a lot of pious comments out of the Catholic Church administrative group sort of reacting to the Pennsylvania accusations. And if these people who have been reacting with shock and horror, if it now turns out that they themselves were involved in this abuse stuff, then this is even worse than I thought last week.
I wouldn't be surprised in the least.
Yeah. So let's hope they get to the bottom. We're going to close out now the last page here. This isn't meant to be every state where somebody who wanted to help could help, but we wanted to think about people in the crowd are very kind to listen to this and very kind to support Jason's effort at Crowdsource the Truth. I really appreciate your comments and your questions and your reactions. You're tweeting out of this stuff. But there's some concrete things that people can do if they want to step up the game and bring to the attention of the public, you know, what's going on here. We start in California. Now, California is a state, you know, Tucker Carlson and I both left there a long time ago. I left it, I think I was 9 months old, so I wasn't really consulted on my exit decision. But Tucker, I think, left later on in life, and you know, some would be tempted to just give up on California in the sense that you've got, you know, in the Democratic race this year, you've got, for senator, you've got 2 Democrats running against each other. There's not even a Republican candidate.
Really?
Yeah. It's the way they rigged their rules up there so that they have Dianne Feinstein, who did not get the endorsement, as she shouldn't get it, of the establishment Democratic Party, running against a person who's even farther out in left loony land.
Why wouldn't somebody just pop up and run? Why wouldn't the Republicans? How could they allow that?
I don't know. It's California.
I mean,
but there is an opportunity. I mean, there's an opportunity to make a few points, for Donald Trump to make a few points.
Maybe Joe Napoli should run.
Well, it's too late now. But the point is, with this election cycle, I think it is fair to whoop up on Xavier Becerra, the Attorney General of California, and say, what the hell, dude? I mean, Donald Trump's making the point you mentioned that, you know, this Awan scandals is very, very, he should not have gotten off the way they got off. The American public deserves to know just how deeply Congress was penetrated by the Awan family. How much information did that family take out of Congress and ship perhaps back to Pakistan, as Barack Obama likes to call it. And it's not just Xavier Becerra who negotiated all those contracts when he was in the House, but his deputy Attorney General was centrally involved as well. So, I mean, I think the FBI needs to take a close look at Xavier Becerra for his involvement in the Awan scandal. And I think this business guy in California who's running for governor deserves, you know, some attention. I mean, we need to ask him, how badly do you care about charity fraud? In general, charity fraud that costs the state of California a bunch of tax revenue, charity fraud that I think we're going to discuss in more depth involving Dianne Feinstein's husband.
It's a favorite kind of fraud.
Exactly.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, so what are you going to do about it? You know, and John Cox needs to pound the table. And the reason I say California is so important, it's a big media market, it's a big movie market, although the movie business I think is slowing down in California. It's a place where this kind of debate will get coverage. We've got the Me Too scandals erupting even more now. So if people in the crowd want to tweet, bring this to the attention, focus on media people, focus on the print media, focus on the alternative media. We need to really raise temperatures in California. I believe in 1984, Ronald Reagan won California, and I think he also won New York. So he did. It's not crazy if you have strong economic growth and things to crow about, particularly the growth and international stuff. We have a shot. It's going to take a while. A lot of things would have to go right, but people in the crowd can help with California. You can actually help with New York. I mean, here we have this Underwood shamelessly persecuting Donald Trump, over 2.8 million. If you hit that link, that's the official AG link, and look what comes up. She brags about just having filed suit against Donald Trump. When, as, and if it does come up.
Yeah, sometimes they go to bizarre locations. Barbara D. Underwood.
Yeah. If we hit the medias, announces lawsuit against Donald J. Trump Foundation.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and nothing on the Clinton Foundation.
I mean, that's crazy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, and it's possible that you know, I did report various charities in New York several years ago. Of course, I get nothing back on it. Others may have reported it.
But it's just so funny how it's presented here like, you know, this like graphic treatment and everything is like, you know, it's promoting it on the website here and shows Trump with the giant check for 100,000. Why don't we show Bill Clinton with a check for $1 billion?
So yeah, and this is paid for by the New York taxpayer. This
Crazy.
website.
Crazy.
You know, she's not electioneering on this website. I mean, she's running for office, I believe.
So is this, you're saying this is electioneering by saying that they're going after Trump?
I think so. I mean, she's subsidizing her campaign.
Look at how excited this woman is about the 100,000.
Yeah. Doesn't seem very happy.
Siouxland Soldier. No, she doesn't. I don't know what that charity is all about. But what's the problem? He's donating 100,000 to some soldier's charity.
I think it's a similar. I don't know the specifics of the lawsuit, but you have to register inside New York State before you solicit inside New York State.
How do these guys not know that?
Well, I think in the past the laws have been on the books, but they've been enforced very selectively or not at all. And you know, the Clintons, fraudsters realize that. They go to a place, fraudsters got a fraud. So they see if nobody's catching them for something that is a juicy fraud potential, and they flock to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I pick on New York and California first because these are states that have the most to gain by landing on the Clinton Foundation the way it deserves to be landed on.
In terms of recovering the tax money.
And people who have connections in New York and California in the crowd, you know, push on it, tweet, contact.
Why doesn't Trump create some sort of resolution to whatever it is their problem is with the Trump Foundation by saying, hey, you know, we'll pay all this and do whatever if you go and do the same review of the Clinton Foundation?
Well, he's not in a position to do that. He's got to comply with they have to comply with the law. But I think the crowd can make an issue of, you know, we got to have equal treatment under the law. You can't have, you know, Barbara Underwood, the acting attorney general, why is she the acting attorney general? Because the previous one had a vendetta, personal vendetta against Donald Trump, but he got bounced for being, you know, a charter member of the Me Too movement advisory board.
He's the poster child for Me Too.
So out in, they pronounce it, I think, Missouri, but it's spelled Missouri with an I. The existing attorney general is now running, I believe, for Senate, I think. I mean, dude, you're the existing attorney general of the state. Can you not investigate the multiple Clinton Foundation frauds that have been occurring and are occurring in your state? You know, and can people in that state not reach out to them? There must be people in the crowd who know this guy. His website is there for his campaign. People, these attorneys general, these state attorneys general need to be encouraged to get off their asses
and actually do something.
And prosecute obvious fraudsters, which, you know, this Clinton Foundation is clearly a massive, it's in my opinion, the largest unprosecuted set of charity frauds in human history.
This looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch ad,
exactly.
Not a political website.
Yeah.
That's pretty weird. But so he's running for Senate now.
I think that if you hit the about,
yeah.
I think it's Senate. I may have it, maybe governor.
About Josh. You know, he certainly, you know, loves his kids.
What does it say further down the statement? Conservator. He's either running for governor or senator, I forget which.
It's pretty weird that this website, you're looking at it that long and you can't even tell what he's running for, but, you know.
Anyway, if we go back to the slides, Mike DeWine, I think, is running, I forget what he's running for actually as well, but he's the existing Attorney General of the state of Ohio. Again, Ohio laws are very strict on charity fraud, and we have got the paperwork out of Ohio that the Clinton Foundation has fraudulently filed. Mike, you know, what are you doing? You know, now maybe they're deferring, these state AGs are saying, well, you know, we're aware it's in the public domain, the FBI is investigating this, IRS is investigating this.
Why do we need to
Why do we need to do this? But, you know, there's state tax revenue you can get back here.
So are you saying that people could go to this Mike Devine website and contact him with this contact form and just write something along the lines of WTF? Exactly.
How come you're not investigating the Clinton Foundation, the massive Clinton Foundation frauds, and then send him a link to, you know, our playlist, send him a link to, and the same with Hawley, to whatever materials you feel they ought to have, you know, open your eyes, people, and you need to do something about charity frauds in your states.
Yeah. It's time to start prosecuting.
Yeah, let those prosecutions begin. Now, Minnesota is a lost cause, right? You've got Keith Ellison, deputy head of the Democratic Party. He's running for attorney general. You know, this is a guy who's going to be on milk cartons for his role in, you know, abusing various women. But here's this young guy, Doug Wardlow, running for attorney general against Keith Ellison. Doug Wardlow, people in Minnesota who can contact him have got to say, Doug, what's your position on charity fraud? You know, why are you letting the Clinton Foundation commit charity fraud? You're the attorney general. You're running to be the attorney general of you know, Minnesota. What are you going to do about this? Will you pledge that one of the first things that you do if you win is you will look aggressively into the Clinton Foundation's role in practicing fraud in your state?
Pretty young guy.
Young guy, exactly.
He has also fought China's unfair trade practices on behalf of American steel producers. So is he, well, yeah, we should ask him what he's doing, because it seems like nothing's happening over there.
That's right, not enough is happening. And then in West Virginia, again, this is a state, this is one of the very few states when you check the Clinton Foundation in West Virginia, what you discover is they were barred from soliciting in West Virginia. Now, the way that works in many other states, you have to tell the other states that that happened. And of course, the Clinton Foundation has not done that. They haven't been truthful about the many times they've been regulated. In Mississippi 3 times, in Utah, they were in the process of being investigated and they just left the state rather than comply with the law. There are many, many infractions that the Clinton Foundation has not been truthful about admitting. And here you have this guy, he's a sitting attorney general. Donald Trump loves West Virginia. He's been there I don't know how many times this year, he'll probably go back again. You know, why isn't this guy who's the attorney general of West Virginia, you know, launching a real investigation into the Clinton Foundation in West Virginia? Why isn't he doing it?
It's an excellent question.
So if we go to the final slides. In Massachusetts, now Massachusetts is, I think I've told this story before, but I'll just repeat it briefly. There's this lady who's very much passed away named Anne Hutchinson, who placed a curse on the politics of Massachusetts at her trial in 1638.
Really?
Yeah. And she then, she was, I think there were 51 judges. One of my ancestors was one of the judges who sided with her, and they all were kicked out of Massachusetts and founded Rhode Island. And
the Ortels were kicked out?
Well, there was Anne Hutchinson, and remember I told you we got here in 1853, but this family was called the Coggeshall family, Coggeshall. And John Coggeshall was one of the judges who sided with Hutchinson and was the first president of Rhode Island, actually. But anyway,
president of Rhode Island?
Yeah, it had a president. He was the first president. He was very active founding many towns. I think he founded Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
It's like being the king of Newark.
Yeah, there were 3 other people there.
President
but he did buy a lot of land actually from the Indians in Newport. Anyway,
Viceroy of Baltimore.
But so they placed a curse on the politics of Massachusetts. We have Hiawatha, which is my favorite name for Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
Running. We
Pocahontas.
have Pocahontas, Hiawatha. And you know, for people who have a Native American background, it really isn't fair that Hiawatha, who has about as much Native American in her as you do, or I do, which is, I know I don't have any, and I'm guessing you don't have any either. So she's built a career as a tenured professor of law, arguing that she was a Native American descendant when she wasn't, to be what? Not to teach law.
I've discovered that a lot of lawyers are stupid.
Yes, stupid, and they're also liars. They go, it's not law school, it's lie school. And then from that, she goes to the Senate, and from that, she expects to be president in 2020. I mean, this is somebody who really, I thought
she said she's not running for president.
Of course she's going to say that, because she wants to avoid the slings and arrows of the critics.
Of outrageous fortune.
Exactly, until it's too late for her, you know, not to run. You know?
No one's going to vote for her.
I mean, people voted for Hillary Clinton. 63 million.
I mean, I guess
did.
people who hate Trump will vote for her
Yeah.
just because she's not Trump and she's, you know, kind of.
Right.
She doesn't strike me as the person who's going to be the first female president.
She has no management experience of any kind.
She just always seems unhinged. I mean, she's just like, kind of like makes you want to say, shut up.
Yeah. Actually, there were different people and I love, as you know, I love Seinfeld. I think you love Seinfeld as well. And different people were sort of merging Seinfeld clips with these politicians of George when he goes crazy, you know, and that's an unhinged person version. We should do that with these people, Elizabeth Warren and others. But there is an opportunity. There's a primary, I think, next on September 4th in Massachusetts, after which we'll know who are going to be the candidates. There's going to be a Republican candidate for Senate, an independent candidate for Senate, and then, of course, Hiawatha. And, you know, if it were my choice, and it's not obviously my choice, I would encourage the President of the United States to get up there to Massachusetts. Maybe not to Boston, but to the center of the state where there are, Boston has elected to statewide offices Republicans, Romney, you know, different people at the Senate as Republicans. I don't know that anyone can easily beat Hiawatha in 2018, but I think it would make sense to give her a run for her money and to be asking tough questions about, you know, what Hiawatha will do about regulating charities, bring up the Clinton Foundation, bring about the various crooked things that have been going on and been covered up in Massachusetts involving the Clinton Foundation, which is, after all, the headquarters of the HIV/AIDS piece of this. So those are some things, concrete things people in the crowd can do. I know I had sent you some, this just, I mean, what is it, Jason, about the bug-eye wing of the Democratic Party? I mean, you notice that this picture, and there's pictures of Hillary Clinton with bug eyes like this, but this is really very well summed up. The belligerent ignorance of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is not somebody who can say, look, you know, I was an accounting major or I was a biology major. She was a politics and economics major at George Washington, a good school. And every time she's asked a question, she screws it up.
It's really staggering. I mean, she seems legitimately stupid.
Yeah, 500 million Americans, I mean, you know.
I think I've said it before, she's like the female Dan Quayle.
Yeah, when Dan Quayle was smarter.
Like the millennial, I don't know about that. Dan Quayle was pretty dumb.
Oh, he was.
Pretty dumb. You never hear about Dan Quayle anymore. He was the HW insurance policy.
Was there another one I sent you?
Yes. And so we can close on this. I mean, you know, John McCain, I am shocked that people are saying he was a hero. We've heard a lot of stories. POWs seem to not think he's a hero. And even though Trump was being nice, someone had a problem that the tweet wasn't nice enough or something. It's like, come on, how?
Yeah, and this whole, I mean, that CNN, it's Sunday, August 26th at 3 in the morning. Some idiot at CNN is writing this story about John McCain and Hillary Clinton drinking vodka shots together. I mean, guys, I mean, that's fun and interesting. You know, we know that Hillary likes to drink, and I can imagine John McCain liked to drink, and it's Washington, D.C., and, you know, they had fun getting drunk together. Well, that's not a very helpful argument for either one of them. I mean, in the time when Hillary was what happened in 2004? They're at a restaurant in 2004 in Estonia getting drunk on having vodka shots together. I mean, the economy wasn't in terribly good shape in 2004. We were fighting a war. The war in Iraq was just about a year old and not going all that well. You know, what the hell were you doing in Estonia anyway, right?
It's a good question. I mean, I think we should be talking more about how John McCain met with the Free Syrian Army and how he made propaganda recordings in violation of the oath that he took to uphold the honor of the military and not to reveal anything but his name, rank, and serial number.
No, not to mention the Keating 5 scandal.
Yeah,
you know,
John McCain, not my kind of guy. to quote Seinfeld. That guy,
Not your
not my kind of guy. Well, Charles, that's been yet another impressive showing, coming in just under 2 hours. Very well done.
I'm trying to follow instructions.
It's not instructions. It's free to go for as long as you like. So 100th episode on Wednesday. And until then, I definitely want to thank everyone for watching. I want to encourage people to sponsor Crowdsource the Truth so we can continue on with this sort of thing. People can go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and become a monthly sponsor of the show. For as little as $1 per month, you're going to get access to exclusive content, but also if you enjoy Crowdsource the Truth, even on the free outlets like YouTube and Facebook and Periscope, VK.com. We can't stay there just because those outlets are free. They're not sending me any money. As a matter of fact, I was doing an experiment, Charles, with Super Chat on the 21st Century 3D YouTube channel. And I'm sorry to say to people that sent money to Super Chat, YouTube never sent me that money. I never got a dime of that Super Chat money. So I don't know. People say they're keeping 30%. They seem to be keeping 100% of the Super Chat money that was pledged toward Crowdsource the Truth. So I don't know how they can do that, but they did.
Probably have the same accounting firm that the Clinton Foundation uses.
Yeah, there's some little checkbox that says, by the way, we get to do whatever the hell we want. Right. Click. You check that off. But I don't know if people can get their money back. I would go to your credit card, but it's been like months since that money was sent. I remember seeing it arrive in the comments, but never got a dime from YouTube.
Very interesting.
Isn't it?
Should get on that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Charles, I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see everybody tomorrow.